Okay, everybody, welcome to Taxonomy Tuesday. My name is Chris. I'll be the host for this evening. We do show and tell style from either your iNet or your mushroom expert, or if you share your own screen or email them into Taxonomy Tuesday. We'll try to identify or just appreciate what we have to share. And if you have one from your own screen, just put it in the chat and we'll try to get to everybody in a timely manner. I know Evan has some stuff to share. If you want to kick us off. Would somebody else like to go first?
Is Evan muted or just disappeared?
Oh, he's there. Oh wait, there he is. He's unmuted. He was for a second.
Okay. I'll go first. And
Yeah.
as I was telling before the discussion started, I found a few mushrooms this week in Eagle Rock. So let's see. The first one is club mushrooms, apparently. These three I found earlier on Monday, but I decided to follow them the next day, today, to see if there was any development, and there wasn't any at all. They're really, really slow growing.
Those are really neat to see. They are some of my favorite mushrooms, and I've only seen them in the fall and like approaching winter time. So I'm excited to know that they can come out this time of year.
Interesting. Okay. The next one I found, the focus is a bit wonky, but this one was about half an inch in size. This is a major zoom up. And it kind of struck me as it might be like the beginning of a lion's mane, but it was too circular on top, almost disc-like.
Is it just the beginning of something, maybe?
Possibly. I'll have to check in on it later on.
I wonder if that's that same slime mold I showed last week that has the two stages. I'll see if I can come up with the name. But go ahead.
Reticularia, or the other name.
That one.
The ecology looks wrong for that. I normally see that it really likes flat surfaces like bark.
So even in both stages would do the same, even though it can move around. But yeah. Okay, cool.
I have a few more, let's see, photos of that one, which are thankfully in higher def, but this is what it looked like on top when I first noticed it. I just have to wait for the other picture to loom.
Is it on leaf litter then?
Here we go.
Oh, that's much different looking.
Yeah,
that almost looks like Schizophilum commune, the top of it. but
Is it on that stick?
Yeah, well, it seemed to be kind of merging with the stick, but it also seemed, as you could see at the base, to have a stalk. The first photo I showed you was of the opposite side.
Is the stalk on like the fat part under it there?
That's what I was thinking, but I couldn't really get to it considering its position. This is an extreme zoom up. It was right in the middle of some really nasty water, but it was, I found it kind of odd. It first described as like was previously said as slime mold, but then I noticed that it might have a stem, but I still can't figure out this time, which is why I'm going to have to check back on it later on to see if it grows.
can we see the other side one more time, please?
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's neat, whatever it is.
Yeah, it was extremely small, less than half an inch, but
Did you touch it, like texture wise? Was it?
I couldn't reach it.
Oh, okay.
But I was at least able to get a really nice photo of one side. Let's see.
Yeah.
And another one. There's the other major one I found.
Nice.
Yeah, that one was huge. Biggest one I found out there so far. And oddly enough, despite how large it is, that's what it's being supported by. A really thin stalk. And underneath, as you can see, the gills.
So is that the platter? Yeah, Megacollybia rodmanii. Yeah.
And so far, these have been my total finds.
Cool. Getting out there.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of rain the past couple weeks, and now the sun's out, so I figured that would be directing all the mycelium to start sprouting, and they did, at least some cases.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Does
Yeah.
anybody else have any to show from their screen?
I have some I can share.
Go for it.
All right.
Any little yellowy clubs? I haven't found any of those yet.
Which ones?
The starts with an M. They're always in the water.
Oh, Mitrula.
Mitrula.
Yeah, found some a couple weeks ago. Let's
I've been
see.
looking for them.
Yeah, April 27th, we found some down in Franklin Parker Preserve. I, di-
Oh,
I didn't.
man.
I didn't take really. I didn't. This isn't a great observation, just because I pretty much knew what it was. The only interesting thing about this is it was the only one that I found in this little area. Normally, when you see one, there's dozens of them, but this was the only one that I saw. And then you gotta look at the spores with these, and they're more or less cylindrical, rod-like in some capacity. But yet you have to make sure that they have that quality and not more crescent shaped spores.
Nice.
Because they'd be a different species of Mitrula then, or why?
Yeah. Mitrula. So this is elegans, right? And then Mitrula lunulataspora, lunulataspora has kind of crests. I consider them more like humpbacked, and you can see. I don't know if you can really tell them morphologically apart. Some people claim to be able to ID them uh, without doing micro, but I don't know. I really think you got to look at the spores. But yeah, like Chris was saying, they just kind of grow in these little standing. I find them in swamps, standing pools. This has more hardwood than I'm used to seeing. That's one of the other things that kind of gets kicked around when we talk about these things, like is Lunulataspora a hardwood thing, um, whereas elegans is more of a conifer associated thing. But I don't think that really matters all that much.
Well, it seems that stagnant water is enough.
Right. Yeah. And you can see these spores. See how they have more of a humpback compared to those really kind of straight parallel spores from the previous one.
Yeah, I'm dying to see those Mitrula. I've never seen
Yeah.
them except here.
I don't know. I've never. Well, we can do it real quick. Let's do it with elegans. Just kind of check the distribution map to see if it.
Thanks.
Uh, There's that map.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely kind of work their way up and don't like the coast down south, but it looks like they.
They follow the coast of the lakes a bit, maybe.
Once they get up to Jersey, they can be found in the coastal plains, but it doesn't look like down south it likes to do that. But I would imagine you would get these things.
Yeah, maybe in northern Wisconsin this summer I can find some.
Yeah. This is also like a classic, population bias map, more or less. There's more people
Right.
in these cities than in this area of the country, just reporting things. So, all right. So that was cool. I found this today, which I find way too early for it to be out. This
Nice.
is like this is like a peak season mushroom in my opinion, like a summer species. Um, and I'm pretty sure it is. I've had this conversation with a couple people over the years. All of these Gliophorus. Uh, there are other species other than I don't even know how to say this thing every time. Psittacinus, um, that go green, and the photo didn't really pick up the green all that well. But this area up here on the cap was pretty clearly green, and there were hints of red and yellow and all that, which are common with this mushroom. But the thing that threw me was it's just so early for this thing to be out. I think maybe I'm mistaken, and they do come out in the spring.
Did you get it this weekend?
I found this today. Yeah,
I mean, it was pretty hot the other day.
it was. Yeah, it has been hot, pretty steady. Mid 80s and all that, which are summer-like conditions. So maybe that's it. It just there's been rain, which that's the other thing. We got a good amount of rain last week, and maybe some of these things they were just like, we haven't had rain in so long. Try to throw out some fruiting bodies, right? But this thing is so funny. It's like hard to pick up. It's so viscid. It's slimy and slippery, and literally like difficult to pick up. It just slips through your fingers sometimes. It's pretty funny.
Maybe things feel early because it's been such a slow start with the dry conditions that it's like to be finding it first, kind of as one of your first mushrooms. It seems bizarre, probably.
That's a good point. But I mean, these things are reported from like July to November. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which,
Well, how about that Clavariadelphus? Does
yeah,
anyone else find those in the spring?
I thought the same thing you did. I've never seen one in the spring. I think I've seen one early season, but like late June.
Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad to know that I could find them more than I thought.
And
Thought they had a small window.
did you have an idea on a species for that thing? I find those things are hard to put the species.
Yeah, I was gonna just probably say Americana.
Yeah,
Americana, is it? Or I think.
yeah.
Um,
I think they're pretty difficult to get the species, but yeah, Americana is the one that gets identified the most, at least.
yeah, I mean, it didn't have a really flat top. I mean,
Mhm.
the color was a little bit interesting. And I wonder if Evan knows what kind of trees, was it in hardwoods or conifers?
Well, I believe I saw them on hardwoods.
Okay, so I'm gonna stick with the Americana or Amera, yeah, Canis or whatever it is, but hard to know. Yeah, I liked your shot of it too, the top shot. It was interesting shot. They looked like they were sort of split on top, like from the heat probably. We
So,
had that heat too. So did you
yeah,
have it there, Evan,
well,
too?
the past couple of days we have had a lot more sunlight and heat, but that was a really heavily shaded area where I was in.
Hmm. Did you
So,
notice how it was kind of like split, like?
mhm, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah,
I didn't know if that was natural or not, or common for them.
yeah, usually I would say no, so I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, it didn't really, when I looked very close at it, it didn't really seem so much split as much there was just a ridge. There was no fraying or damage to the flesh at all.
Oh,
That's why I didn't know, that's why I was unsure if it was natural or not. It just seemed like it was supposed to be there.
okay, yeah, have to look into it.
All right, found this today as well on beach. This is always a cool find. I really like this mushroom. I don't see it all that often, and I don't think I've ever seen it on beach. Um, but this is Fomes graveolens, and I couldn't get great photographs of it because I couldn't get close to it. This doesn't look as steep as it is, but it was just pretty far away. I would have fallen down the hill. But there's a lot of it. So that's like 3 or 4 clumps. There's one. There's a couple here, all the way up, even up. That's one up there. So pretty impressive fruiting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And like I said, I've only seen it, I think 2 other places ever before. So it's a cool
Is that
find.
parasitic then?
I forget. It's probably mildly parasitic at the very least, right?
Because they call it a knot, KNOT, right? Like, what does that mean? Because I know there's that black knot, and that one's parasitic on like I think cherry trees or something.
Cherry, yeah.
Yeah. So I was just curious.
I don't know what that means. Probably just common name. Looks like a knot. Call it a knot, right?
Okay.
I've seen old ones on downed stuff. I don't think I've ever found one on on the side of a tree like that.
Yeah, well, that's the only. I found it on both, but it was a standing dead tree, and I'm pretty sure this beech wasn't doing all that hot, standing dead. Where'd the thing go? There it is. Yeah, if you,
Yeah, it's a good size limb gone there.
yeah. And it's funny how they're following that one kind of. See how there's like they were only on this line, some kind of wound that they were working their way out of, right? So
Did they have the characteristic smell?
I would have fallen down the hill if I'd tried to get near it, and this was 30 feet up. Yeah, I couldn't have. They were too high up to handle. But yeah, they do smell fantastic. All right, so
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, I mean they fully smell like potpourri.
Wow. I
Oh,
gotta
man.
find one.
All right, so one of these things, I don't know what this is. I'll just kind of breeze through it because I don't know what it is. But you can see it's got this wrinkled margin. They're tiny. This fruiting body was maybe 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters max. And I do think I have a mixed collection here because what I thought it was tympanus, which this fruiting body is at least more reminiscent of. I don't think that's what it is, but it looks a little more tympanus to me. No idea what's going on with this white stuff, if that is even fungal, if it's part of this mushroom or, some other area of life. But so this is it in situ, and that looks really tympanus to me. So I thought that's what I was working with. And maybe it is. Yeah.
Oh, they're really small.
Yeah. Got some spores out of it. They were bigutulate. I'm dubious, to be honest, if these spores are from that thing. They do not look like ascospores to me. So maybe there was some contamination there. And then really not knowing what this thing is, I'm just taking shots in the dark. There's several things that look like fungal spores, in my opinion, here. These are similar to the ones we saw in the last photo, and they are bigutulate. So I'm pretty sure those are at least fungal spores. This looks like an ascospore. This could be an ascospore. This could be an ascospore. Really not sure what I'm looking at there.
What'd you do? Scrape?
Yeah, I just took a pinch of material, really hoping that I got some of the fertile material.
Yeah.
And then these things, I mean, is that a Globos ascus with some ascospores being produced inside? I do not know, but could be. Does anyone have an opinion on that? Does that, because there are Globos sac-like asci.
I mean, are we looking at the bigutulate spores?
Potentially. I am not sure. But then to really throw it, so this is the context. This is kind of the, just the majority of the fleshy stuff under the scope. This is not those same spherical, potentially asci that we were just looking at. So the context of the thing is made up of these kind of globose cells, which is interesting. And then to top it all off, I found this thing, which I doubt it is related to the fungus in any way. I just thought it was pretty cool looking. So
cool.
Man, it's like whatever it is looks dangerous.
Yeah, it looks, yes. I thought the same thing.
That is excellent, whatever it is.
Yeah, these kind of branching, pretty thick walls, cell walls. You can at least make them out. And then even this thing up here, like there are in the ascomycetes tons of ascospores that look like that thing. So this is a full on, I have no idea what I'm looking at job here.
Yeah, could be like plant material too, no?
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. Could be plant material, could be, I mean, if you look at that first photo or one of these photos, maybe it's this one. Look, there's this spider web going here. I saw a small spider, like a tiny insect in some of these photos. So maybe that's what this white stuff is. I don't know. Anyone have any opinions on that?
Yeah, you got good photos.
Yeah, very cool to see whatever it is.
What did you clean off your microscope slide with?
Tissue. Well, not tissue. Lens paper.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, because I just was going to suggest maybe it was some sort of fiber from a rag or a cleaning sheet or something. I'm sorry, I'm sort of half asleep here. I just woke up. So I saw that thing though. It looks a little. Once in a while, I actually use old socks to clean off my microscope slides, and sometimes a cotton fiber.
Interesting.
Left on the slide, and it looks a little bit like that sometimes.
Well, also it could have been woody debris as well. Like it could have been. I mean, it could have been anything. I have no idea what it was. I do not think it was related to the fungus, however, though.
Yeah, I think that's why I asked. It looks like some sort of fiber.
And then real quick, this is another thing that I'm really trying to, I don't know what this is. The color is dark purple with pinkish brown mixed in there as well. And it's stereoid, right? Like it looks like a stereum, in my opinion, with the reflexed bits and all that. But the reflexed bits are very small. Like for it to be growing on a standing dead limb, stereum normally, especially fasciatum, is much more lobate, in my opinion. These are only reflexed maybe a centimeter or two.
What about that, is it Phlebiapsis crassa?
Yep, that's one to consider here as well, but that doesn't reflects even this much.
Yeah, that does look really lichen-y that way, right? Yeah,
No, yeah,
no,
because maybe I'll just show a quick picture because I found Phlebiopsis crassa this day as well. And I'm not saying that's not what this is because I don't know what this is. It could be an odd growth of Phlebiopsis crassa or uh, Sterium fasciatum potentially. I don't think it's Condosterium purpureum, but it could be that as well. So this is like a younger growth of it, kind of inside of a like a in kind of hidden within the cavity there. And it has very much a pinkish brown color to it, and not much purple going on. But you can see the margin here is pretty membranous as well. I don't know.
Looks like it's following uh, some of the bark in the the furrows.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here
Yep.
and here. Yeah, and like that. Like I was saying on this photo, definitely coming out from within the thing, but then totally dominating on the bark as well once it kind of gets the maturity. And you can see some cracking going on. That was something I noticed with it as well. There's a thing called Peniophora, I think Quercus, um, which just is another name that I looked at for this thing. But yeah, I didn't come up with a good name for this. I'd love for anyone's opinion on what they think it could be.
It's no kind of pores or anything. It's just
No. All right. Then I don't want to take up any more time, but this is what Phlebiopsis crassa looks like, and it likes the underside of things. See how it doesn't really reflects at all, and this is young growth, and the margin has that kind of wispy, cotton-like margin to it. Now this one actually could be Condosterium purpureum. Actually, no, I ruled that out with this mature growth here. Pretty sure that's Phlebiopsis crassa. Cool. That'll do it
yeah,
for me.
that's a lot more soup in it.
well. Thank you, Brandon. You have provided us with the usual super difficult. That's excellent. I like purple mushrooms.
I threw a parrot wax cap in there.
Does anybody else have anything to share from their own screen? We had some email. I know Hunter sent some, and Dave sent some. Would you like to go, Hunter?
Sure, I can go. Nothing too exciting this week. I was finishing up morel hunting in the driftless area of Wisconsin and Iowa, but I didn't take any pictures of any morels because we've all seen those. And if we could go to the next one and get back to this one at the end, that'd be great. But what I did see, and I just wanted to point it out, is yeah, just the second, third, and fourth, second, third, fourth, fifth. Yeah, and if you want to just go the right arrow to the next one, and then to the next one, and then to the next one.
Whoa, man.
Yeah, and so this is like, probably, I mean, maybe 25% of what I saw. And that's how it is here in the Midwest now. And I think I've shared it, but what we believe here is that this was cultivated, it escaped from Iowa, from a mushroom farm there that caught fire, and then the spores traveled in the wind at east as they do from the west and kind of northeast. And so northern Illinois and Wisconsin have really become inundated with this mushroom, and then it's spreading everywhere. And this was the story that one of the former presidents of the Wisconsin Mycological Association told on Wisconsin Public Radio. It's probably been almost, well, at least 10 years ago, probably. So yeah, I just really do think we don't want to be encouraging them, but still, even one of the biggest growers, provider of cultivation supplies, still sells golden oyster kits. Supposedly they're selling different strains of it that aren't supposed to be as aggressive, but honestly, I just see no reason why one would grow it if they want it. They should easily be able to find as much as they would want. And then also, if not today, tomorrow they will. Like if it's not in your neighborhood yet, it's coming. And so I just wanted to reiterate, and I could bring, from here till the end of the season, I could bring, this many pictures of more sightings of this mushroom every week, and that's how it is. So just thought I'd share that. And I know some people say it's good to eat, and some people say they really like the smell, and I did go ahead and smell it because I have eaten them before and was not at all excited by them, and the smell is completely different from regular oysters. What I love about native oysters is that smell of anise. That's how you say it, right? It's like anise, anise, or whatever. It's that licoricey kind of smell. It's so good. These don't have that at all. It is, I don't know if it's like a suggestion, but it is almost citrusy, the smell. And at any rate, at any rate, in Iowa, for the second time, I saw people carrying these in their mesh morel bags and carrying them around the forest. And for the second time, I had to say something, and I offered them a paper bag because, that's what you want to do with your morels, but not with these. So I thought it was interesting. So that's that. So this is the golden oyster Pluteus citrino-pileatus, and it's invasive and it's very aggressive. And then I just have one more find.
What kind of wood are you finding these golden oysters on?
A variety of woods. But mostly this elm and ash and
Right.
yeah, elm, I'd say elm primarily. But I've seen them on probably almost everything, but I'll start taking more note of that. So this is the spore of a Collybia. I think it's the infundibulus, what is it? Giba.
Infundibulus cybe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You find that in hardwood forest?
I did not, but I do believe that's what it is. It was mostly conifers, but
That's probably Infundibulus cybe squamulosa then.
I know,
Is
but
that this?
this is it, and it's got the white mycelium at the base, and then it's why else did I think it was the Giba? There's a few. Oh, I put KOH on the cap and it turned brown, but that's supposed to be a reaction with the Giba when it's dry, and the cap really wasn't fully dry, so I can't say for sure. The spores, I think on the well, when I looked at Quo's spores, they really had like a strong, was it a piculus or a strong snout on them, and mine didn't. So I was almost wondering if it wasn't either of them, but the squamulosa, I mean, it has a little, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if I had more magnification, it would be more profound. So yeah, and I found these past years, and Dave, you taught me about them, so I kind of knew which direction to go, but it's definitely one or the other. So and maybe it is the squamulosa. I don't know. I think my lenses are really dirty, and for that shortest lens on the microscope, is it like recessed to clean it? Like, am I sticking a Q-tip like up a hole to clean that? Or is something wrong with mine? Or
I've tried to mess with mine a bit, and I can't seem to do anything with it. I think I got to take mine to a professional.
Yeah, I get mine professionally cleaned.
do you? And
Yeah.
where do you do that?
I drive a good ways. The club, we have a relationship with a guy like an hour and a half north of me, and I take it to him.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. If I ever make it out there, I'll have to bring mine and make an appointment or whatever has to be done. If I can't find someone around here, but yeah, I need to ask around on that. Okay, that's good to know that that's an option. So yeah, this was the KOH on the cap of that. But it's supposed to be dry, and I mean, the conditions were dry, and this was the next day, but it's not completely dry, and it's maybe a little less brown now. But I tried water on the cap, and it definitely didn't look like that. So I think that's a brown reaction in the center there.
Just put it right in the welled in spot there. What do you call it? Umbilicate?
Yeah, I didn't mean to. It kind of
Wow.
kind of rolled in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like almost like Hygrophorus or whatever, but it's not. That's the KOH. So, but yeah, it's been really dry. It was terribly dry up in the Driftless area, and I mean, really getting it. And they had a bad drought last year, and it. We were lucky to find much, anything really. Then if we're getting rain now here, so next week hopefully I'll have some good finds. But that's all I got.
Thank you, Hunter.
My pleasure.
Dave sent some. You want to share yours, Dave?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can go. Yeah, I'm still kind of tired. I passed out after dinner. Didn't sleep real well last night, and I did a bunch of stuff today. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah, we can have Conocybe. So I don't know what species this is. There's a few possibilities for these brown fragile Conocypes. I'm pretty sure the genus is correct. So we had our local club had a foray on Sunday, and it was a small area. Oh, maybe 4 or 5 acres, if that. And there were 3 fruitings of this that growing on the ground. There's a few possibilities for the species that I found on Mushroom Expert and Myco so it might be one of these typical species. None of them are all that typical, though. I mean, Myco has several of these Conocybe species where their page only has one photo, so that leads me to believe that they might be kind of uncommon. So the spores are pretty big. There's a germ pore on the spore. It's truncate, kind of really noticeably truncate. If you can click to enlarge the photo, we'll see the one end of the spore looks like it's cut off. Is that going to enlarge? Maybe not a whole lot because there we go. Yeah, you can see how some of them are, see on one end they're cut off. So that's a germ pore. It's a big germ pore. And so it's usually the description is via the word truncate. So these are pretty big spores. I think the biggest spore I found was about 16 microns, and it might have been on one of the 3 collections. But most of them had spores that were up to about 14 microns. So anyway, that's that one. I will get I will try to get this sequenced.
Is
So
Tenera a consideration or no?
I think I looked at Tenera, and I think that has smaller spores. There's a few of these brown ones, the Sienia folia or something like that. There's a few different names, and I get the impression from reading on Myco that they're not all that well understood, all these different species. Those are very fragile, and I think Tenera might be a little bit more resilient. So anyway, that's that. These would be pretty easily confused, I think, with some of the smaller Gallurina, but these are growing right on the ground.
Cool.
Yeah,
It's
most of the
the
Gallurina.
stripes on them have such a striping.
Oh yeah. It's almost like an entoloma or something. The stems. Yeah, That's pretty. That's a pretty interesting trait. Um, so I don't know. Maybe I should do a little bit more investigating and see if I can come up with a name. But I have preserved. I preserved 3 different samples, one from each of the 3 fruitings we ran across. So at least I got some decent photos, and maybe eventually we'll find out what species these are. I have a feeling that there's probably a number of these Conocybe species that are not all that well understood. That's just my gut feeling on this. So this is, I'm pretty sure, Gymnopus subsulphureus. So instead of the gills being pretty much white, creamy white, they're a little bit yellowish tinged, and the mushroom in general is sort of yellowish tinged. Mushroom expert says that rhizomorphs on the stipe base should be pinkish. I suppose that mine here were kind of a little bit pinkish or yellowish. Sometimes I have a hard time deciding which color is more dominant. The yellowish on the gills did not come out real well on these photos. It's a little bit more yellowish than the photo suggests. Also, when we get to some of the close-ups on the gill attachment, I think you'll find it kind of interesting that these gills are pretty much attached, but very, very, very thinly so and very deeply notched. So that looks almost like they should be free, like they're not meeting the stalk at all. But there's a couple other photos that are taken through the loop. So those I think are next. Let's see. One more of just straight on. And then after those two, I think. Oh, there we are. There's a close up. So you can see in there that those gills are attached. It's just very deeply notched and thinly attached. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And I'm pretty sure
Almost looks like the stipe is spreading out as well.
yeah, the stipe is kind of flaring a little bit at the apex, which that makes it a little. It just adds to the confusing sort of view you get. So that's the stipe base with the rhizomorphs. So I don't know, pinkish rhizomorphs. I don't maybe. I have a hard time sometimes deciding whether to call these things pink, something like this pinkish or yellowish. But I think this is Gymnopus subsulphureus. It's pretty common in May. It's when I usually find that species is in May. At least, what I've been calling that species. So the spores don't give you a whole lot to go on. These Gymnopus spores in section Gymnopus section what is it, Levides? Levidipes. They all look kind of the same. So sort of ellipsoid, but pip shaped. They'll sometimes say they're shaped like seeds. There's a piculus on one end. That photo is not quite as good. You have to sort of search around to look for ones that are in focus. So that's pretty similar to Gymnopus drophilus. It's maybe I'll submit this for sequencing. I think that this subsulphureus is still considered to be a valid species, and so I'm sure that there's probably been some sequencing to back that up.
Yeah, subsulphureus is definitely valid, and I think that's what that is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what those are. So, orange peel fungus. So it's not uncommon, but it's not really all that common either. I don't see it all that often. This was a pretty nice fruiting. Somebody ran across, and so I'm pretty sure that's what these are. There are a few other small orange, fragile sort of ascos that look kind of like this, but I'm pretty sure these are Aleuria aurantica. I think that's the species name. And I'll show you when we get to some of the micro. I think maybe the most important feature. But the spores on these are pretty interesting. And I've got a few spore photos here. So typically what you're supposed to find are what, see these like ragged looking spores? I don't know if that's going to zoom in. Oh, it does zoom pretty well. Thank you. That's so look at these like ragged looking, really coarsely ornamented spores. So those are the mature ones. But look at these other spores that are just smooth, ellipsoid with two gutules, bigutulate, you would call it. So this really made me wonder. I mean, did I, was this contaminated with some other specimen that I brought home? But there was nothing else that I brought home that could have had spores that looked like these ellipsoid bigutulate spores. And indeed, the immature spores of Aleuria aurantica, that's what they look like. So what I found interesting was that these spores were from a spore drop, so you would think that they should be mature. But in this photo, you can see both what are considered to be mature as well as what are considered to be immature spores. So there's a few more spore photos after this one. And so depending upon where I looked on the slide, I would find sometimes a higher percentage of mature ones or a lower percentage. And also, I think the last photo is really the best thing.
Huh.
There's a bunch of immature ones, and there's some mixed up mature and immature. So I just took a lot of photos of these spores because it was interesting to me how many immature spores there seem to be. So there's an ascus, and you can see it's inside the ascus. They look bigutulate and not ornamented. So those I suppose those are what you would call the immature spores. There's one photo though that's coming that I think is maybe the most telling, and it's this one right here. So that's a paraphis. Is that the singular? I'm not sure how to say the singular, but that's what it's supposed to look like for this species. Very thin, but with this enlarged or inflated apex. So, and it's got also like contents. It looks like it's full of crystals or something. So that's another thing that's supposed to be true about the paraphyses for this that you find on this species. So I'm pretty sure this, I'm right about the ID. But it's just an interesting thing to find. Do you guys find this much ever?
Rarely, I find it, again, like mostly more in the fall, but yeah,
Oh,
like in, like where trees have fallen over, kind of.
oh, okay. Yes, in the past, that's sort of where I've seen it. This was just on the ground, on soil.
I've also found them like that as well, like in on a Jeep trail kind of thing, just right on it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
preserved some of these, so maybe I'll submit them.
what a great mushroom. I love seeing it, and yeah, it's a rare find and so nice to see.
Yep, never seen it. It's on
No.
my list. On my list.
Yeah, that was a nice fruiting. When I do see it, it's usually in the spring, but I think I have also seen it in the late summer. I'd have to check my records. So, Melanoleuca verrucipes. Somebody brought this to a meeting last Thursday. Look at the penny there. You can see this is a pretty big, robust mushroom. So what makes this Melanoleuca verrucipes? And these are indoor photos, by the way, so they're not the greatest photos, but they're not too bad for indoor. Oh, you hear the cat? That's Byron. I don't know what he's whining about. Anyway, so it's almost like scabers that are on the stalk. And verrucipes means, ornamented foot. So this is a Melanoleuca with an ornamented stalk. So it's got like these scales or scabers all over the stalk, and the gills are attached. You can see there. And when we looked at this mushroom at the meeting, like people were saying, well, it looks like those gills might be free. But, once you get in there and you get a nice close up look, you can see they're definitely attached to the stalk. And as also another thing about all Melanoleuca species have spores that have amyloid warts. So I got some of the white spore print and mounted in Meltzer's. And I think there's another photo coming up that's through my binocular scope. So it's not the greatest photo. And it's not going to enlarge because this is really cropped quite a bit. But you can barely make out that the spores have these little black dots all over them, really, really tiny dots. Those are the amyloid warts. So all Melanoleuca species have amyloid warts, as far as I know. And these seem to be really small warts. Now, this is a hymeneal cystidium that was on the gills, and I had a hard time finding this. Usually there's a whole lot of these really prominent hymeneal cystidia on any given Melanoleuca species. There'll be these big prominent cystidia on the gills, and a lot of times they'll have an encrusted apex. So that's what this is, an encrusted apex. So it's encrusted with all these like crystals. But I had to mount gill material 3 times before I found this single cystidium. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But I don't see this species all that often. Once every few years, I'll see a few of them. So the person who brought this to the meeting said there were a whole bunch of them in near where they live in an open area.
Nice. That's cool. Just cool to see that.
Yeah, it's an interesting species to find. It's pretty easy to identify just from the stalk, and the cap. It looks kind of like Melanoleuca alboflavida, except it has and it's more robust than Melanoleuca alboflavida, but it has this ornamented stalk, so that really sets it apart.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it was an interesting find. So I got 2 observations for this one thing. I'm pretty sure this is Kuehneromyces lignicola. Interestingly enough, INAT calls this thing the false funeral bell. So basically, what they're saying is that this looks like Galerina marginata, and it kind of does, except no partial veil, no ring on the stalk. And if you look at the spores under the microscope, they're different. They're more like Foleota spores, small, thin-walled, germ pore, and I think that's probably coming up because I think I got a spore. I think I got some photos of spores. Yeah, there we are. They're kind of small, truncate, germ pore, so they're kind of almost truncate, like those Conocybe spores, but the thin walls. There's no what's called a plage on the which you'll find on Galerina marginata spores, which is basically an area that's kind of scooped out near the one end of the spore. So I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. I think that's what this is. This was on a big hemlock stump that was where the rest of the trunk was cut off with chainsaws because apparently the tree must have fallen down across the falls trail.
Dave, you
So
called that one. Did you call this one like you said lignicola?
Yeah, I think it's Kuehneromyces lignicola, and I think this is
Yeah.
the same thing. Same tree trunk, same stump. These were just younger, so they're not as mature. But I did get spores to fall out of these also. The spores are the same, pretty much. Same tree. Notice how the stipe is thin and dark. And the spores look the same, and the spore print was the same color, sort of a brown. So these do not look like Gallorina spores. And I think I may have used a little bit of Meltzer's here. I forget because a lot of Gallorina mushrooms have spores that are dextrinoid, so they'll turn dark purplish brown when you mount them in Meltzer's, and these were not reactive at all. But they don't look like Gallorina spores. So, yeah, Kuehneromyces lignicola. Pretty sure that's what these are. There were a lot of them on this one big.
I think I see those.
I'm less confident. I'm less confident about this one, but the previous observation that was textbook lignicola.
Yeah, I thought so too. But these were on the same hemlock trunk.
Yeah,
And the
I mean
spore
these
print looks the same. The spores look the same. But I made two separate observations because I didn't want to assume, that they were the same.
Yep, and that's a good move because these give me a little more pause, but that's only because they're immature, like you said.
The other ones are mature and they look more, like you said, they look more textbook. The other ones you're saying are the textbook ones, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Mm-hmm. Yep, those. Yep, there we go.
Yeah, they're fun with that super dark stipe.
Yeah, and it is in the description that the stipe turns like reddish brown.
And not to get too off topic, but because you can't really these false funeral bell, sure, but they don't really look like Gallorina to me. But these have a hollow stem. Gallorina does not, right?
Oh, I didn't check that.
That's just. I think that's just one of the things that, like,
Okay.
if you're not sure, like in the field, maybe that's something to look at.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't pick up on that. Oh, that's good to know. Not that I'm going to try to eat these anyway.
Yeah.
I don't eat Conocybe. It reminds me too much of Gallorina. All of them do.
Yeah, you can be 99% sure I'm still not eating the thing.
Right. Yeah.
They're nice. Does anybody else have anything? I have one I could share. I find these in the same spot every year. It was crazy wet out. It was just raining like 20 minutes beforehand.
Oh, wow, it's so young. That's neat.
Do you have a proposal for the species?
No.
It's a Lacrymaria
Yeah,
species.
Oh,
Didn't you
I
have it?
thought,
Yeah, I thought you
yeah,
had
yeah,
it up
yeah.
as
I
Lacrymaria.
I didn't have I didn't have it, because I think there's a more than one of these.
Yeah, yeah. There's Lacrymaria, Lacrymabunda. That's the most common one. But then there's a couple other ones. I think one is like Cinnamonium or something. And there's like 3 species, I think, that you might find around here in the Northeast.
But what I brought it in and I actually let it dry so I could get some like decent photos of the cap and everything because I know they have that good fuzz to them. There it is.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, yeah, that's real nice.
Yeah,
So I just let it
awesome.
dry for a while before I
Yeah.
started messing with it. And then it just had it grows in this like muddy grass that's right next to a sidewalk.
Yeah, that's typical. Most of the time, I call these things Lacrymaria, Lacrymabunda. I think there might be difference in spore size amongst this.
Are we
But
looking
that's
at
how
a?
you
Is
really
it?
tell right there.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That edge to the gill with the white.
Uh-huh. Oh, look at that. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, you got a lot of nice photos.
Yeah, that's a great photo. Was there a double annulus? Is that what I saw?
Uh the I think this is what you're looking at
Yeah.
this as it started to dry up and shrink back. But this, you know, is separate from all of that.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. But
I,
Lacrymaria, I mean, it has the wispy coordinate uh, annulus. Do, do they have a membranous annulus like that?
I don't think that's typical what you see here in Chris's photo. Um, I it looks like more than usual of the veil clung to the stem.
Hmm.
Oh, and by the way, these have pretty cool spores.
Yeah,
Um,
look at them.
yeah, yeah, they're really, really um, ornamented with warts, and you can see there.
yeah, I
Yeah.
got a couple of there was some there's a cystidia.
Oh
Oh, I
yeah,
got that
nice.
one right there.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, yeah. You got some. Oh, look at you can see the warts really well on the spores. Very
Yeah,
nice. Oh, that's the
you got
basidium there. Look at
Yeah, with
yeah, you got the
yeah,
four piece.
yeah,
nice. Yeah, you got some good
yeah,
micro
very
shots.
distinct with the appendage there. I think
Wow.
I think I even managed to get some dark field if I put it in there. Oh yeah. There's another you could see them a little bit there after the spores broke away, and that's that same cystidia from before. Yeah, it was fun. I like them spores. And then I just, I wanted to get good shots of those gill edges.
Yeah, it's a nice observation, Chris.
Thank you. And
Yeah,
then I
nice. Yeah,
had
did a lot of work on that one. I really liked that photo of the cap surface with the hairs.
yeah, it's intensely But you could see how matted it is at the bottom. I think because it was so wet.
Yeah, and like Dave was saying, it's easier to call these things all like marabunda, right? Is that the species like marabunda? Um,
I think it's Lacrymabunda.
like baboon. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
if
one.
I'm saying that correctly.
I got to say I got to say the genus before going into the species.
Yeah.
Um, uh, it's easy to call them all that, but I don't. This might be one of the other ones.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I
It's a
was
little
looking
different
at
from
different
what I'm
ones.
used to
I
seeing.
just couldn't. I don't know.
Look on Quebec. They have a few of them there. They have like 3 different species there, I think. I think one of them is called Cinnamonium or something like that.
And this one I stare at from my car in my parking spot at work. This is just out on the other side of the fence. And there was
Oh,
the whole stick is covered. I should have taken a picture that was better of this whole branch. The whole branch is it's got leaves on it, but they're not doing good. But I don't know. I guess you guys said that there's like a whole group of these.
yeah,
There's really not a whole lot
Neofavolus.
of
At least 2 species.
But this is clearly the orange one.
yes.
If that matters. Yeah. So
If that
um,
matters, yeah, sure.
what's the
Alveolaris.
alveolaris? Right. Yeah, that's the orange one. I think the other one is Americanus. But yeah, that one's supposedly usually white.
But the thing that we talk about every time is, does that thing have an orange stage as well? What are these things
Right.
actually? I'm of my opinion is called alveolaris. If someone wants to prove me wrong that it's not, go for it. But
Yeah,
I
I tend to call these orange ones alveolaris also. There's a bunch of them out right on my property right now. I should photograph them because they're pretty fresh. They're out there right now. If it's not raining tomorrow morning, maybe I'll go out and get a few photos. I think the ones I'm seeing are on hickory wood, but they grow on all kind of wood, hardwood probably.
This is
Is that hickory? That is it hickory?
no, this is an oak, one of the
Oh,
you can see the leaves here right in the background.
oh, okay.
I forget what they call these
Quercus montana, the chestnut oak.
I was going to say chestnut oak. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, we got a bunch of these just out the other side. Like if you can't hardly
yeah.
tell, but like right behind this grouping of leaves, you can see Route 70. So they're like it's this weird spot where it's all pines and these chestnut oaks.
Chestnut oak, is that what genus is that in?
Quercus.
Okay, so it's an oak.
All oaks are in Quercus.
Yeah. Well, chestnut is a different genus, right?
Yeah, it's chestnut oak. So
The leaves look like chestnut leaves.
Oh, okay. So it's an oak that has chestnut looking leaves.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Got
think
it.
that's where the name comes
Yeah, like
from.
a regular chestnut, they get like the points are sharper.
yeah.
That's really all I had there.
Lauren's got a couple she can email. I just put the Taxonomy Tuesday email in the chat. So hopefully that would work for her to
I,
Two?
I've got one more thing that I'm going to send also. It's kind of interesting. So I'm just going to put something in the chat. It'll just take me a moment.
Oh, Douglas has one here that he just sent.
Yeah, that's, I just saw this. I like the bluish color. I think there are two views, the top cap, and then I cracked it off. It's sort of sky blue on the bottom.
We cannot see it yet.
It's a Mycena subcaerulea. It's just a beautiful blue color. That's the reason I sent it. It was either on
Wow.
oak or beech. That was the forest there. I wasn't sure. And Chris, if you can show the top of the cap, you should have two pictures there.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful color. I tried to look up a little bit about it. Apparently, there's 100 species of Mycena worldwide. Only 8 of them have a bluish pigment. The only other one in North America is in the Pacific Northwest. It grows on conifer wood. But I hadn't seen it that much, and I really like the color. It's just really pretty. That's
Yeah,
I don't have much more.
Is it psychoactive then? Does it?
Saw that, and then people disputed that. Some people claim that this has psilocybin in it, but other people refuted that. So I don't think the blue pigment is due to the psilocybin reaction. I think that's an internet thing. And there's some over in Asia that there's one called subcaerulea. I think it's in Europe. Forget maybe, and some of them are really intensely cobalt blue, quite beautiful. If you take
Yeah,
a
and I was going to ask, I'm unfamiliar with this species, Douglas. Can we go back to that first photo? Was it blue in situ or was it a reaction?
oh no, it was blue in situ. The undersurface was sky blue, and I just cracked this off to take a picture of the gills. It wasn't as darkish blue here. As they age, as you can see from those caps, the blue pigment fades and turns brown as they age. So if you see older ones, you might miss them. They apparently just look brown.
Brown, right? Yeah,
Brown. This
interesting.
was right after it rained. I just went out not too far near Valley Forge Park is where I saw these.
Were those growing on the wood or from the ground?
They were sort of
You got a stick here.
attached to the undersurface of the wood.
Okay.
Because I flipped it over and broke one off, and they are saprobic on wood, mostly oaks and beeches. According to there's not a lot of information on them. I couldn't really find too much about it. I think Michael Kuo has it in his mushroom expert has a description, and they apparently occur early. Right after morel season. So yeah, that's it. They're kind of cute. I hope someone else can see them. I like the blue color.
Yeah, that's a it's a mushroom. Cool, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, that Mycena might not be a horrible thing to save for sequencing. I bet they're not all that well worked out here.
I didn't collect it to do that, but if I see them again, I often go over to that park. I will look for them, and I could do that.
So, Lauren, you want to tell us about these?
Right, we cannot hear you again.
Well, I didn't see. Is she writing?
Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are.
Okay, thanks to Mike, as usual. Yeah, so two porcini spots. It's porcini season, Norway spruce. That's all. that's, that's all I can say about that.
Doesn't that seem early too? Like, is it normal for these to be out at this time, Lauren?
Honestly, I'd have to. So last spring was the first time I found them in the spring. Up until then, I only found them in the fall. So Dave would probably have a more accurate take on that than I would. And I'd have to look through I guess I can look. I can look to see when I found them last year. I'm not sure, honestly.
I found Boletus edulis in May once up here in Northeast PA. I think it was like May 25th, and a few of them were old and buggy, so they had come out, a little earlier than that. Usually, I don't find these until late June. But you're further south. You're a little warmer than where I am. The ones I found in May were under hemlock. I sent some to Bryn Dettinger, and I assume that they came out as just Boletus edulis, or else, because if it was something else, it would have been noted.
Yeah, I'm looking through my pictures from last spring, and I see a porcini in June, and I don't see any in May.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because we haven't had any really hot weather yet. I mean, it's around here, it's been up to 80 degrees once or twice, but usually these don't start up till after it gets pretty warm. But once again, you are further south than I am, so your season probably typically starts earlier.
Slightly.
Okay. Yeah, so anyway, it was exciting to find two different spots. So I started driving around and looking at some of my other spots, but no luck there yet. So yeah, they're fun to find.
Oh, that's right. All right. Didn't you say you drive around and you can see them from your car?
Yeah, the first picture, yes. Almost all of my, I would say I probably have like at least 10 spots now, and I would say almost all of them except for maybe one I can see while I drive. Like those ones that you're showing right there, those Mike and I were driving a couple of days ago, and I saw
scary to drive with
he's full of shit. Those I saw those from the road, and I stopped, and there was a lady and a guy out doing yard work, and I walked up to them and said, "Hey, there are some cool looking mushrooms on your yard. I saw them while I drove by. Can I go take a look?" And she's like, "Sure." So I told her what they were. She didn't have any interest in them at all, and then it was funny because she saw some amanitas, like, I don't know, maybe like 30 feet away. And she's like, "Oh, what about those?" I was like, "Yeah, no, those are amanitas. You're not going to want to eat those." And I actually went back to the spot today and there was nothing. And so I'm not sure why, because there were little babies. Like, as you see, some of these I took were small, but there were little babies popping up. And I didn't see any of them today. So I don't know if they decided to take them or what happened, but
Somebody else probably got them. People know about these.
Yeah. They were small though, so somebody really would have had to been looking.
Well, they may have grown a little bit, especially if you had some rain.
Yeah.
But John Plishke and a nymph foray a few years ago, actually gave a talk to the whole group in one of the evening sessions, and his talk was about hunting porcini from his car. Just
That's
driving around
awesome.
looking
Oh
at
man.
spots on lawns. I do this also. I do the same thing. I
Well,
have
there's
spots I know on lawns with spruce.
they're so easy to see. I mean, it really just looks like somebody tossed like, like hamburger buns in the front yard. It's
Yep.
And
Yep.
I have to say, if you guys are wondering why they're so dirty, I don't normally take them like that with covered in dirt. I normally cut them. But we were in a rush. So I had to basically run and grab them. Normally I cut all the dirt off and stuff.
So those were with Norway spruce, you said?
Yeah, so they also grow with pine, but I would say almost 100% of the time that I find them, they are under Norway spruce. So when I drive by Norway spruce in the spring and fall, I am looking.
Great.
Yeah.
Yep, Norway spruce, white pine, and hemlock. Also, I find them under hemlock. If you find
okay.
what looks like Boletus edulis under, like Scots pine or like 2 or 3 needle pines, scratch them and cut them and see if there's any bluing. If there's a tiny bit of bluing, then you would have Boletus subcaerulea, which is the almost blue staining porcini, and those are just as good to eat as the edulis, but it is a distinct species.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Because isn't there like a toxic, what's the toxic bolete that looks like?
Huronensis, but it's not reticulate. It does turn blue very faintly and only in small areas. It's more of a northern species. I've only ever found it in Maine, and if it's
Okay.
like there was a nymph in up in Canada a couple of years ago, and I think somebody found one or two of them were found up there. It's like a northern thing in Great Lakes.
Yeah, and I've
I've
read
never
that.
found
I'm
it
always
down here
worried
in
that
the
it's going to make its way down here and I'm going to get sick.
Well, it's a mycorrhizal species and probably takes a long time for the fungus to develop an association with it's a hemlock species also, the
Oh,
Huronensis. So it's
okay.
not something that's just going to show up overnight. It's probably going to take a long time for it to spread. And also, I think you probably need hemlock to have it.
Okay.
But it doesn't really look all that much like Boletus edulis. It's shaped like Boletus edulis. The color is different.
Okay.
And the stock is not reticulate.
Yeah,
All right.
iNaturalist
Little
has
bit of blue.
some Huronensis in Connecticut, but that's as far south as it goes.
That sounds about right.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, if I found something like this that was staining blue, I would have assumed it was that. So it's interesting to know that there's an edible.
Yeah, usually with 2 or 3 needle pines, but I also find it in areas where you would expect edulis, with white pine or with Norway spruce. The subcaerulea seems to like all sorts of conifers, and but it is really reticulate. The stalk is more coarsely reticulate than Boletus edulis.
Okay. Cool. That's all, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. They look
Nice.
delicious. Let's see here. How do I do that? Oh, there we go. Did anybody else send anything?
Jason, do you have stuff?
Yeah, I've got some stuff to share, but I can share it from my screen.
Oh,
Yeah, and I just wanted to ask a question about the Boletus. Are So I know there was a kind of a push, like things were being lumped back into edulis as a species. Is that not happening anymore, or are we treating Boletus as all these distinct species again?
Bryn Dettinger readily admits that he's a lumper. But he's the one who was like in charge of the big project. So he's at somewhere out in Utah, I think. And he accepted a lot of material from all around the world, did a lot of sequencing. And in his opinion, Boletus edulis is found all around the globe. And he says it's all the same species. And there are other species like this subcaerulea. That one's different. In the southeast United States, we have pseudo-Pinophyllus, I think it's called. So it looks like Pinophyllus, but Pinophyllus is European.
Atkinsonii is like a hardwood edulis.
Which one is that?
Atkinsonii.
Yeah, that one's hard. That's a hardwood sort of edulis thing. Yeah. There's a few that grow in hardwood. There's nobilis. It's not as reticulate. There's a few different species that are lumped under the name separans, but the cap colors are different on those. There's verrucipes, and so I forget how this works now, but verrucipes and nobilismus had been confused.
Oh, that's it.
That's yours.
Oh.
That's not what I made that up. That's yours.
So, yeah, but I find what I think is edulis, I find in hardwood forests sometimes.
That picture I like. I had another chance to stalk. The first.
All right. I got a few I can share. So this guy's from a month ago in a cedar swamp in South Jersey. Don't know what it is. My guess is a Mycena, but when I don't recognize a little brown mushroom, I call them all Mycenas. So pretty white gills. Fuzzy foot.
So there's this Mycena that grows in swamps in spring, has a really long stalk because it goes down like into the moss. And I'm trying to think of the name of it. I'll look on Michael. It's on Michael Quebec.
Jason, we found this thing, what I would say is probably the same thing at Franklin Parker with the Burkharts the last time I was there with them and at the end of April.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think we were, it's a Mycena.
Yeah, at least know it's a Mycena. Yeah, cool. All right, if Dave gets that name, I'll come back.
And Jason, you got the one here. Did you find a bunch of them now?
A bunch of them now, or
Did
a bunch of them back then?
Yeah, when you found this one, did you find a bunch of them or just the one?
I think I saw a decent amount of them scattered around. There was only one where I found this guy, but it was, distributed throughout the forest. Yeah.
Yep, that tracks.
All right, this next one is from North Jersey. I didn't get any spores out of it, but this is from about a week ago.
Ooh. Some color on the gills.
Yeah.
So, did you have a name on this?
No.
Could be Strophareaceae. Could be Satharelliaceae. Are those the same thing?
Okay, let's. Oh. I'm going to put something in the chat. Mycena preolonga is a proposal for the dark capped Mycena in moss. I'll put it in the chat. I'll put a link in the chat.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's not a real confident proposal because there's a lot of different Mycena.
Yeah.
Anyway, this thing here, yes, some sort of like Satharella type thing, man.
Dave, this is not Candoliomyces, right?
I don't think so. It looks a little bit too robust.
Yep, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. So there's this thing that comes out. Well, yeah, there's something called pseudovernalis, and there's this other thing, Satharella pseudovernalis, and there's Satharella. I think it starts with G. Another one that's an early spring one. They come out really early though. You'll see those in April. But that's just a couple of Satharella species that you find early. Satharellas are really hard to identify as species for the most part.
Dave, you don't think the other thought that I had was Strophareaceae, something Stropharia, grassope.
Yeah.
Just with that velar remnant,
Yeah. Maybe it's some sort of a grassope. Yeah, it could be.
A grassope praecox or whatever, maybe.
Maybe. I don't. It kind of looks more like Satharella to me, but I don't know. That could be wrong.
I agree. I would lean more. And we're just talking families at this point. I don't even feel good. I'm real bad at Satharella proper, but something in that family or something in the Stropharia grassope family, maybe.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's so there's Pseudogrisio something. Satharella grisio. It's on Mushroom Expert. I would look that up. See if it
Rusio pallida.
probably.
Yeah. Gray, white.
All right, cool.
Looks
Gives
a
me some
bit
leads
like
to look at.
a grassope acericola too, a little bit.
Yeah, and that's a forest species, Acericola. That one usually forms a pretty persistent ring on the stalk. acericola. There, you see there on that picture what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. But there are graveolens that don't have partial veil. Putamen, Sororia. There's another one too that starts with H. Humosa, I think. I think I showed it a week or so ago.
Yeah, and that putamen someone had showed.
Putamen, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I like
Most of those are
acroscopy
wood chips.
praecox the best. That's the closest match to me, but
Yeah.
Where did you find that? Like ecology wise?
it was in a upland calcareous forest. So high pH limestone.
Hmm.
All right. Next up was today. This one's for Brandon.
Nice.
I was up in a fallow field in North Jersey that gets a late season hay harvest, and there's just this one section that has a thicket of low growing rubus, and then there's a few of these. Found a few fruiting stems of this guy, so I took some pictures, and then I was gonna bring it home, and I remembered Brandon had some trouble with the microscopy, so I quickly discarded it, which I don't regret. But at least get it to genus.
When you say I had trouble with the microscopy, what do you mean? It was just work.
Yeah, there's a bunch of new vocabulary and
Yeah.
interpreting weird structures.
Yeah.
Oh, next time I find one of these, I'll collect it for you. I'll let you do it.
No. You
For
just
you.
sift through all that. Those.
Oh yeah,
those,
the Wikipedia rabbit hole. Click
Yeah.
on a word, click on a word, click on a word. Until you're about 7 websites away from where you started.
and praying that someone online will help you.
Yeah.
Desperately help you.
So that was cool. Yeah, it was cool to
Yeah.
find something.
Nice.
So right after Brandon shared it at Taxonomy Tuesday a few weeks ago. So next up, I got a lichen from the Pine Barrens over the weekend. Hypocenomyces scalaris, which grows on the bark of pines.
Neat.
So you see it's got this kind of
Wow.
squamulose thallus with marginal serratia.
So is this considered foliose?
I think it's squamulose.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, you could, I mean, it's got a distinct top and bottom. The underside, I think, looks, different than the top. So I don't know, maybe I should check that. But yeah, it's, I think it's described as, let's see what the italic calls it. Yeah, thallus squamulose. This is only the second time I've seen it. I think it's pretty common. But if you see a pine tree that's got other lichens growing on it, you take a close look, you usually find these clamshell shaped squamules on the, especially on the edges of the plates.
And those clamshells, each one less than a millimeter, like they're small, or
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is every one of these through a loop?
This is not, but this is this is through a microscope, a stereoscope.
Okay, yeah, they're really small. Okay, that's why I asked
Yeah.
folios, because they're not big. They're very, very small
Right.
structures. Okay.
Yeah, I mean you can almost not even see them with the naked eye. I mean you can see where they are, but you can't really make out what they are. You really need to use a loop on the bark of the tree.
Okay, so they are squamules. All right.
Yeah. And
But
then
can
go
I
ahead.
ask one more question?
Yeah.
Those squamules, normally when I think of a squamule, it's green and kind of lobate, and you said these are clamshell. Is that which? I mean, yeah, that's a good description. Is that pretty unique to this genus, at least?
I don't know of any other species in this genus that we get, so um, I don't think there's a lot you could confuse it with.
Cool.
Something else called carbonicola might be a epithet. Well, this here it was. I think this might have been in the same genus but got pulled out. So this looks somewhat similar. Find a better picture. I've never seen this guy though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the other thing to compare it to.
Well, either way, you find something that looks like that. It's cool to find.
You see, it's got a more distinct margin with Ceridia. I don't know if that's diagnostic or not, but this one's a little bit more sparse with the
But
Ceridia.
the that is Ceridia, right? Those little
I
dots.
think so. Let's see. Yeah.
Cool.
Laboriform Ceralia bearing Ceridia. Lower surface pale. And then the cool thing about this is it's got a host-specific lignicola parasite that grows on it, which I also found,
Cool.
which is Clipiococcum hypocenomyces, which is this black staining stuff creating parathecia on the squamules. Which matches the description to a T. I mean, you read a description of hypocenomyces and it says, keep an eye out for this black lignicola parasite. So I didn't do any micro on it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Nice.
That,
I can't imagine there's
have
very.
some. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Chris. I can't imagine there's very many observations of that thing. This thing.
Yeah, there's not. I think it's first one on iNaturalist for New Jersey. And I think looking at herbarium records, I think this is the third record for it in New Jersey, but I don't think it's super rare. I think it's just something that people don't look for. And that's
that
all I
thing's
got.
forming some sort of spores on those dark spots.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that is cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, it's 9 o'clock. Does